Subconscious breathers. Today's topic is sustaining on this full moon day. Ivan in the house. Gonna wait for a few more people to hop on. We had a full house last live. We have a doctor in the house. Hello, Ivan. What's going on? What's going on? Has anyone else felt super intense? Prana nasal breath is so healing. Appreciated, brother. Much love to you. Much love to you. So we're going to wait for a few more people to hop on. Today's topic, after last live, was sustaining. And that's a tough one when it comes to anything we practice in the meditative world. Sustaining. Because we could be high and mighty and feeling high and mighty for all so long. But then something will come along that we never see coming, and like, man, is all my work in terms of self-development worth it? Was it really worth it? Heart and throat blockage has become intense at a time of partially meditation. Okay, cool. Yeah, but sustaining, it's easy. I wouldn't say it's easy to... It's a tough way up the mountain. It really is a tough way up the mountain. Let's not negate that. But coming down the mountain, it's very steep. And it's a lot faster to go down the mountain than getting up the mountain, because there's less resistance. Crazy, we all on the same frequency. You know, crazy is one of the words that I took out my vocabulary. I really am doing a really good job of utilizing it. I really catch myself and even talk to whoever I'm talking to, saying, man, I gotta actually stop saying crazy. That's a nice way to like reaffirm to myself that, because I took coincidence out my vocabulary the last 2 years, so that's been going well. Instead of coincidence, I say synchronistic, or sync. If me and a person might say the same thing, instead of saying jinx, I say sync. And let's talk about sustaining a healthy mental mind, sustaining the meditative practices in our everyday life, and going beyond any limitative blockages we tell ourselves. Because, like I said, you can feel high and mighty for so long, and then something might come into your subconscious as well, and different things you start saying to yourself, like, man, why am I thinking like that? Why are these thought patterns coming up? And man, I really thought I was one way, and now I'm thinking like the other way. And many people who are on the top, they always say, whatever field they're in, I'm talking more beyond business, but I'm talking about any niche, any people on top of their top niches, on their niche, on the top niche, they always say, it's hard to sustain. It was nice getting here, but how do I sustain this? And when I speak with them, I'm like, so now you're going from worrying how to get there, and now you're at the point where you are there, but now you're worrying about like how to sustain it. Where is the disconnect there? The disconnect is you're finally acknowledging that in hindsight, you also have to acknowledge that you're putting the wall up there saying that this is it. That's it. That is literally your mental blockage, if you will. That's one of the main blockages when it comes to sustaining or sustainability. And does anyone want to come on live and talk about that? The double mind is real. It's more than a double mind. It's many minds, you know. Many of my friends in India, whenever I talk with them, and some of them I've known for years, and they would say they feel like I've reached the state of samadhi. And what is samadhi? Let's look into what is samadhi, because sometimes I have to go back and... Alright, I'll just go on top of my head because I can't even find it. I don't really want to type it in, actually. Let's just go off the dome. But samadhi is getting to the point of realization in terms of oneness. How did I get to that point? Of harmonizing with the breath, because the breath is really one. Okay, someone wants to go live. Someone goes, I build the energy. Hey. Hello there.
Hey, peace, everybody. How are you?
Peace. I am good. We're talking about sustaining energy, really, in the sense of
when you reach that point, yeah,
and
like how it's hard. Yeah, I definitely agree with that. Like you get to a point where it's like, oh man, seeing all these synchronicities, life is good. I'm meeting all these wonderful people. And it's like, I'm meditating, I'm doing, I'm meditating with my eyes open, I'm being appreciative. And then it's like you hit that kind of point where it's like, well, damn, how do I stay here forever? And you start overthinking it. And then when you start overthinking it, your life just gets so out of whack. It's just kind of like Inception. I don't know if you guys have seen that. Like, where it's like when you start focusing on those things and like as opposed to just like letting it flow, it's like you become your own worst enemy. And it's like you just keep going and down. So I would say like, for sustainment, what I've been working on is just like remembering to just trust, like, and go with the flow. Like when you stop trusting and like having faith in like, the creator, the universe or whatever, anybody, puts a name on it, like that's when your life gets out of whack, like literally.
One of the simplest things that everyone can do here as well is whatever affirmation you use, it's good to add or better towards the end of it.
Mm-hmm.
That's really powerful because you're just acknowledging that the doors could be opening to something better, something beyond that you can't see right now, but you're just trusting, going back to what you were saying in terms of trust.
Yeah, I agree. I definitely agree. Like, don't put a cap on it. Like you said, people put a cap on how big you can really be. When you put that cap on it, you really limit your whole life, like literally. Yeah.
And you being in the moment is proof that there is no limit.
Yeah, that's all there is the moment.
You're a living embodiment as of this moment right now.
Right now.
That there is no limit whatsoever.
Yeah, I'm trying to remind myself of that all the time now. Like that's like been like my one little mantra. Like I don't know if you heard of Dzogchen or if anybody else on the Dzogchen yoga. It's kind of like practicing like all day that basically everything is perfect as is. Like there's nothing I have to change. Like you're just basically being the observer. I don't have to change anything. Everything is perfect as is. Like I trust it that much that I don't have to do anything. Like me being me right now, everything as is right now is perfect. And let me just chill. That's kind of like Dzogchen. Like when you kind of get to there.
Yeah, that's a lot similar to what I coach on in terms of mental breath work, because the breath is literally there with you 24/7. How can we utilize it in so many different ways?
Yeah.
And
I'm trying to work on that. I suck at my prana. I'm not gonna say no. I don't suck. I am good at it. Right. Currently, I'm working on it to remind myself like I deserve to breathe fully and nourish my body and give myself that time, like just to really breathe. It's hard though.
Yeah. Let's see. Someone was saying, I build the energy chi and then it seems to leak out. So sustaining to me would be a method to hold on to the energy.
I wouldn't want to hold on to anything. That energy is ever like lasting. Like you should know that you can gain that energy back again, and whatever leakage that you feel that there should be, you're the only person who can control that. But energy is ever giving. Like make
Yeah,
some
it's
more transmuted that a negative.
transmuted.
Yeah, yeah.
That's why in alchemy we don't hold the breath. You don't need to hold the breath. Don't need to hold the breath to feel a certain way or even heat up the body. You really don't.
How do you remind yourself to consciously breathe? Like, is it ingrained to you? Is it habitual to you now? Like, to
Yeah.
yeah.
It's going back to what I was saying in terms of mental breath work. The mental side of it beyond the physical is really important. And as soon as I wake up in the rising, that's one of the main things I work on. Even before I start getting into any breathing exercises, I mentally say with every breath, I'm accepting more love, gratitude,
Oh, that's awesome.
letting go. And
Oh,
keyword,
wow.
when you're using quote unquote every breath, you know, when you go out into the world, people are also breathing in front of you.
Yeah.
So you're also harmonizing with their breath in a sense. And that mental affirmation, as long as you're doing it every day too, there's many different ways you can go about it. But as long as you're saying those affirmations at least, it'll start becoming meditative practice.
Yeah. That's awesome. Well, I'm gonna take that. That's a gem. I never thought like I do that with my water, like to maybe consciously drink, but I don't consciously breathe my every breath and say, "Hey, this is what I'm breathing for." That's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah. Okay, so then I would have one question, I guess, before I get off your live. Then, so I know you call yourself like the Black Airbender. Like clearly, you work with a lot of like air work and prana and breath work. So how would you feel like if somebody's more closer to like the water element? Do you have any like suggestions on how like, because I'm a moon child, I'm a water child. So how would I like maybe go into my strengths then? Like how were you able to find your strengths in your tribe?
So when you inhale, you're not just inhaling air, you're also inhaling water molecules. It's really
Yeah.
just less dense water what you're inhaling. So
Yeah.
like I always say, the more quality the inhale, then the more quality of every element at that point, because you're literally made up of quote unquote everything in the universe.
I told my son that's my affirmations in the morning. I said the same thing that everybody on this live, the same thing that the universe, the stars, Venus, Saturn, your biggest imagination, the Milky Way, everything that those things are made up are inside of you. So don't ever forget how big you are, like ever. Everybody is so huge. Like your physical body is only like literally a speck compared to who you really are.
And that's a proof in the pudding. And that's why I always say I really feel like the body is actually inside the spirit.
I say that all the time. I agree. Yeah.
Because you look at the electromagnetic spectrum, it's pulsating from the body, and we have a quote unquote aura.
Yeah,
So
your meridians,
at that point,
all that stuff, like it's going out. Yeah.
It's going in and out. The torus field, it's literally in and out.
That's how I kind of like recharge myself. Every time I feel like I needed like to recharge, I visualize my own torus, and I'm just like, come on, let's go. Let's go. Let's get some energy going. Like, yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Well, beautiful having you on here, sister.
Yes. Thank you. It was amazing. Thanks. I learned a lot of new things. I hope everybody has a blessed night.
You too. Have a wonderful day this full moon. Peace.
You too. Thank you.
All right. Everyone else is welcome to hop on the live. Body inside the spirit. Yes, it is time to acknowledge that. It's in plain sight. If you really think of us having quote unquote auras and the electromagnetic spectrum that that science is now alluding to, well, it's real at this point. That yes, the body is actually inside the spirit. One of the affirmations I definitely want to acknowledge during this full moon is I'm accepting more growth. Or again, aim to be the best version of you. in terms of whenever you utilize affirmations. Don't forget that. I see Stamoy here. How much time I got left? Well, I got a lot of time. So we're talking about sustaining on the path. And one of the easiest things, well, not easy, but how can you like literally start right now in terms of harmonizing with sustainability? Let's talk about semen retention for some men here, and women too, abstaining from sex for a longer period of time. That really helps with building that mentality of sustaining. But it's not in the terms of holding on to energy, like Sister was saying. It's harmonizing with the sustainability of whatever energy is feeding you into this paradigm, and harmonizing with you, and acknowledging that it's an infinite power source, because that's what it really is. Because when you quote unquote die, what death really means is to quote unquote split out of the body. So where do you go after that? To another thing, or whatever you want to call it, that is living and breathing and giving it more life. You're part of that infinite source. Does anyone want to go live? I'm reading some of the comments here. Celestine Prophecy spoke about this exact thing. Not sure what you mean. So even tying back into that, I build the energy. So sustaining also comes from sustenance, right? It almost ties into quote unquote sustenance. And whenever you think about quote unquote sustenance, you have in your mind's eye that I'm constantly being fed. I'm constantly being fed. How do you build that? One of the best times to harmonize with that type of energy, that's a feeding energy, is literally as soon as you wake up. As soon as you wake up. Say something positive. That is one of the best times to just harmonize with it. And your positive way of thinking in terms of building in positive affirmations after affirmations, in terms of the mental side of it beyond the physical, builds that foundational layer where it can then ripple into your physical practices, either yoga, even the breath work itself, sure. But the foundation, that's where it stems from in terms of building that sustainability and to keep that sustenance, no matter how bad your quote unquote situation is, no matter how bad it gets. Keeping that sustenance, because the more you can keep that sustenance, the more you're feeding and literally being in that creative godlike essence, which you all are, and tap into that creative force, and that starts to feed and ripple into your subconscious. And whenever those times may come in where you may feel like, oh, this is actually going to rip me off the path a little bit, but don't you realize whenever those points in time come and you can acknowledge it, you have to give yourself a tap on the back, because not many people will actually acknowledge it. They'll just brush it off and say, all right, that'll be that. At least you can acknowledge it. That's emotional intelligence that so many people take for granted. Because one instance, one action can really cause a ripple into your whole entire lifetime and many lifetimes after that, and other people's lives. Okay. Anyone want to go live? Sustainability is the topic. And I don't mean sustainability money-wise, but I mean energy-wise as well. How do you stay positive? How do you feel? Okay, someone goes, on full moon, does it mess up manifestation? No. Oh, if I cry on full moon, does it mess up manifestation? No, you're expressing yourself. That's also, whenever, here's what many shamans do in certain cultures. In certain cultures, what I've learned, especially when I used to live in Cali and being around certain individuals, if you will, that the shaman will get the person to cry and to be emotional and whatever it is at a certain point during a ceremony. And as soon as a person gets into that real, I'm talking about real in-depth emotional release, they will come to them and be like, okay, now focus on what you want to manifest into this world right now. Focus on what you want to bring into this world that you wrote down on the paper an hour ago. Focus on that right now. Because they know you're literally expressing from the depths of your being. And I know this really may be hard for you, but when you're crying, whenever you're releasing, in terms of pain, when pain comes up, there's a subconscious part of you that is saying, I'm protecting the hell out of this body as much as I can and will at whatever point given in time that I can. And one of my affirmations when I was standing on those nails, if you saw that video when I was standing on those nails, was like, I'm accepting more healing energy from the sun. And the way my body was feeling beyond the pain, my pineal gland was throbbing a whole lot differently beyond the physical pain. I can tell you right now, my third eye was really throbbing at a different point in time. As soon as I started thinking that way, in terms of transmuting, because that's what it really is. You are transmuting an in-depth part of you. So when you're crying, whenever you're in pain, that's a great time to really, really manifest, because it's authentic. And deep down inside, you're not lying to yourself. So you can literally say, man, with all these tears that I'm feeling, with all this emotion that I'm feeling, forget the pity party. Go beyond that. Go beyond the pity party and say to yourself, I'm accepting either more of the opposite of what I'm expressing right now, or I'm accepting all this expressive energy that I'm releasing into whatever you're quote unquote want to create. Hello there, brother.
Hey, brother.
How
So
are you?
I was listening to everything you were saying. You were just dropping so many jewels and so much nectar. I wanted to be able to connect with you digitally.
Yes, we're talking about sustainability. Express yourself.
Nice.
And your name?
Jessian.
Jessian.
Yeah.
Devon. Pleasure to
Devon.
meet you.
Pleasure to meet you too, brother. So I wanted to ask you, in this upcoming 2021, what do you think is the most energetic, sustainable practice that we can begin to practice amongst between each other, since you're seeing a lot of division within our communities, especially amongst family members. So I definitely have noticed that there's a stronger sense of unity within the spiritual community, but amongst friends and family, there seems to be a greater sense of division. So amongst that, and it can kind of be draining. So do you think that we should then, focus deeper on building our bonds with our spiritual community? And then again, how can we hold space for those who are feeding into what's going on around us?
When you say divide within the spiritual community, are you
No,
talking?
not in our spiritual community, in the outer world community.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I think there's even more unity than ever right now in the spiritual community.
Yeah.
I think it's so powerful right now.
I think being more in terms of gratitude, in a sense of literally asking the question, one of the main questions that shifted me a lot
Mm-hmm.
and catapulted me into many different realms of helping people and harmonizing with many different communities, not just here. You know, I have communities in the UK, in Africa, in China.
Oh wow.
That they can call me on Zoom and I can practice with them in different practices and things like that. So it's asking the question beyond gratitude, but it's asking, is this helping me grow right now?
Mm-hmm.
That was the constant question you always want to ask yourself. But beyond growth, is this going back to expressive emotions? Is this either capping my expressive emotional spirit, or suffocating, or is it letting loose and giving space for expression of spirit? Those three questions.
So hold on, I just want to like make sure I got it down. So is it capping? Is it giving growth? And is it giving space?
Yes.
Okay. I want to soak all of that in. Thank you so much for that.
Thank you, brother.
So like what else, like outside of like those three things, when it comes to growing, how do we like address sometimes the illusion of growth? Sometimes like we face like blockages and like we're growing, and sometimes we think we're growing, but we're not actually growing, and we're being limited, and we don't recognize our limitations until we're standing in front of like, what is the word, issues that we didn't think we were ready to deal with.
So a prime question also to ask yourself, going into what you're touching on specifically, is this a great representation or expression of that is part of me? Or is it something completely opposite? And if it is, what can I do in this exact moment to either not just feed off of it, but expand it from with everything that I quote unquote know at that point in time?
Yes, definitely. And I think that there's like a lot of ego blocks that definitely happens, because sometimes it kind of goes down to like the old proverb, don't eat the fruit of thy labor, because sometimes the things that help us to grow, when we begin to like internalize it as, you know, as true expressions of ourselves, these fruits then become our caps and our limitations. It's sometimes like when we identify with the things that we've been able to reap, I think sometimes our gains, we feel are the best representations of who we are, but if anything, it only limits of what we can be.
That you said it right there. Thank you for expressing that. That was a good reminder to myself too, from what you were expressing. So thank you for that.
No problem. I thank you as well for like you sharing those three on the cap, the growth, and the space, to be able to remember to hold all three.
And how do you find yourself literally sustaining a mental space and capacity where you're allowing different parts of your spirit to quote unquote express itself?
So how do I sustain growth, like moving forward, or just
moving forward?
Moving forward. So I guess like one of the ways that I do my best to sustain growth moving forward is a lot of self-analysis. And I always look at like what am I holding on to and what am I ready to let go. And I notice that I find more growth follows me in what I'm willing to let go. So a good example I've like seen recently is that I noticed how, especially throughout different parts of my life, when I changed my relationship with different friends and like when I was able to make space between me and that friend, it actually pushed me forward in different ways. It was almost like I was undoing karmic blockages by rearranging my relationships with others. And and sometimes it could be the relation, our positions that we hold with between you and another person, but it could also be like simple things like your relationship with your diet. I've noticed as like there was a point in my time where I was fruitarian for about like 2 years. And one thing that I learned that I thought was very mind blowing was when I was eating like a all raw diet, I noticed that so much clarity was flowing through and that I was no like eating like low density vibrational food. And when I was in that state of clarity, I realized how much sharper my intuition was able to come through and how much like understandings that we have inherent in us instinctively that we don't realize because a lot of the things that we eat blocks our natural intelligence. But yeah, I guess what helps me moving forward is looking at the things that I can either add to my life, but even more important, what are the things that I can let go of? Because I feel like those are the things that helps me to rise forward naturally with the least effort. And that's the most amazing part. Things that move me forward with the least effort are the things I can let go of.
Hmm. And in terms of the least effort, it's not like you're running away from, this was one of my internal battles that I had myself. It's in terms of least effort. People think you're taking the lazy route
Mhm.
or this and that. But in hindsight, no, it's more of an energy concept when you look at it at that way. They don't ever take the time to look at at that way. And you don't, you never want to move in a space where there's already pressure. In terms of pressure, I mean the
Mhm.
sense of there's no ways for you to quote unquote grow within the pressure because there's pressure there. In terms of the route of least resistance, there's
Exactly.
less pressure. There's more space for you to quote unquote grow.
Yeah. And I've
That's
definitely
the point. It's not taking the lazy route.
Mhm.
It's acknowledging that there's more space for you to grow and express yourself beyond the growth, but just expression of self.
in that path of least resistance. And there's something that also is very uncanny that I found in the path of least resistance. There's almost like a natural force that helps to guide you in that path of least resistance. Because I've noticed that when you do try to go on that path of overcoming the resistance forces, it's a very ego driven and it's a very like I must overcome. But in the path of like the least resistance, it's a very we will overcome because the minute you get on that path, there's just so much support that you will find all around you that the minute you decide that you're willing to not have to fight, that when the minute you can decide that everything will help to assist you, like if you move from that into like a very optimistic mindset and you just surrender to the path of least resistance, it's almost like how should I say, it's like a lubricant. I don't know how to explain it, but it
Mhm.
just glides. And then everything around you glides with you,
Yeah.
moving you forward.
I went from
Like just a big force.
yeah I went
Mm. Mm. Mm.
Reality, because when you pinpoint those certain times, then I feel like it's way more appropriate and way more intentional of a force that you're shifting in the sense of giving with reality, and then you add the manifesting part if you choose at that certain point. But those points will be way more prevalent versus always just focusing on it, always focusing on it, always focusing on it.
Yeah, and I think a lot of this like manifestation culture, I think is kind of like the hippie child of capitalist culture, and it's very heavily focused on what can I get, how to get it, how to get it, how to get it. And so there's like a lot of like spiritual programs that are selling you how to get. But the minute you focus on how to deliver value and how to give,
Mm.
everything else will be given onto you, you know? And there's so many ways we can break this down to, but I've definitely noticed that the more I can spread a sense of value in the lives of others, the more value I've been able to attract in my own life. And then there's so many just very simple projects that you can do to help manifest more value in your life. Simple thing that I do is anytime I get change, I have a special pocket in my backpack. And I put that change all there. So anytime I walk past a homeless person, like when I'm in New York City, I have something to give. Something that I do as well as if I meet somebody for the first time, I figure out what's one nice thing I can tell them about themselves so that I was able to present myself and I was able to give them, even though I had nothing in my hands, I gave them something that
It's
could
still
go
an
with
energy
them.
exchange.
And many times, even when I'm in the elevator and let's say I'm not feeling, in my most prime state to say like hello, I will still say it in my head. Like I will still say good morning. I'll still say like maybe a little prayer with them, like I hope they have a good day or God bless or something like that. I'll say it in my heart. So like even when I'm in that space, so that no matter what encounter I have with somebody, I know that I gave them something positive. And like, yeah. And I've noticed that that has had an amazing like reflex into my life where I've noticed that the more positive you can try to find and do in your life, naturally your mental health will go through the roof. You'll just naturally always be feeling amazing because you're just attracting all that positive energy back to you.
Yeah, we've been told that, we've been told many stories where um you know people went from zero to hero and many different things of that nature. Well, life itself, it's not that it doesn't have to be hard in the sense of it all depends on perception in terms of hard,
Mm-hmm.
you know. Uh, our main prime in life is actually just to just breathe. Literally, everything else is icing on the cake in that sense. I can tell you some many, even in homeless, from homelessness to star or whatever it is. If you really think about their being, as long as hopefully they weren't on drugs or whatever it was. But I was passing
Mm-hmm.
by a homeless person the other day, and sometimes I would go to Whole Foods, I'd give them fruit and stuff, and it really dawned on me. I'm like, that guy's always sitting next to the tree, just chillaxing, and he actually technically is meditating at a certain point. And I feel like whatever karmic cycle that he manifested maybe to get there, he's cleansing that cycle in a sense. And who knows, maybe he might get another job or whatever. Because I've personally seen beyond YouTube or whatever videos, I personally seen that happen. And the deeper I went into my path, it was such a realization. I remember one friend telling me that um, she met this homeless person. She was having a 3-hour conversation that she never would have thought. And this person was speaking out of, one of the most kindest persons she's ever met. And she was speaking in the fact that he was acknowledging that maybe in his past lives he's had riches, he's had all that, and he just wanted to maybe just experience his humbleness of whatever his path was at that point in time. And she said it was the most intellectual person she's ever encountered, ever. So you don't know who's who in terms of in that nature. And going back to karmic cycles, you know, just you giving that energy exchange, you know, maybe in a past life, just in terms of interactions with people, you don't know. What if in the past life this person saved your life? You don't know. You really don't know. You don't know. At the end of the day, you don't really know. So, you know, reciprocating and reflecting that honor of spirit, really, because that's what literally you're doing, which is powerful. It's going to reciprocate it to you as well. And beyond that, it literally shares its paradigm of energy that you're reciprocating. That's literally what it's doing. Beyond giving it back to you, it's actually pulling you into a paradigm of giving and beyond receiving. Because if you can give at an exponential rate, there is no quote unquote limited source in that sense. And it's the way you give that's also truly important as well in terms of intention. So that's really beautiful, brother. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, when you were saying about the give, I noticed like one thing that is like really common about like these like high level entrepreneurs that we see like in America, at least like from like interviews I've watched, everybody from like Kanye West to John Mackey to Steve Jobs to Elon Musk. These are people who our minds are just so focused and deeply meditating on how can I bring value to others in the most highest level that will move humanity to the next dimension. And that's all they think about. And that's all their projects that they work on. And imagine if we could all do that at every level, even at the lowest level. Even like because sometimes we think about like, oh, like let's say garbage pickup. We think about that as a lower job, but even the lowest level is the most vital levels. If people who are working at that level was thinking, how can I bring value to my society at a higher level, then instead of just having normal recycling, we will have, you know, businesses that are doing composting and then taking fruits and vegetables and turning it into soil and then maybe bringing that soil back to farmers. And then if the farmers are getting soil from these businesses, you know, we can make new cyclical economies. If people, even at the smallest level, were thinking about how can we return value.
And there's a certain energy, even at the smallest level. You know, you see your barista 24/7. You see your garbage man more than you may see other. If you work at a job or whatever, you barely see your boss or whatever it is. You know, you see, just like you were saying, that responsibility of giving at the lowest level is really, really prevalent, really, really powerful. And going back into just giving some to the homeless men, you know, in terms of energetics, as people go by, you know, they can't see it, but energetically, they're reading, oh, there was a giving motion here or something of that nature. There was a giving energy exchange around this person. And visually, even though they can't see it, they're reciprocating and taking in that information into their aura, their auric field, into their subconscious as well. However that person is feeling at that point. Because feeling really shifts reality dimensions, as we can see. Feeling is the true, most potent shifter in reality and our everyday lives. So even the lowest person, you know, always see what you can give value, like you were saying, definitely. And when you're your higher self too, that ripples into others as well in terms of giving value, because you're giving such an expressive energy. You know, I was sitting down at an event and this woman just turned around and was like, you have such a warm energy around you. I mean, like I constantly do breath work, you know, people don't realize it, but I do breath work subliminally. I like, you know, I do certain things and they don't even realize I'm doing it. and I'm just literally elevating my state, and it just ripples. It just ripples. I don't really have to do much too. It just ripples into other people's state of being, and the circle of friends that I create around here. Like, I didn't have to have a conversation with them for some reason. You know, they even pulled me to the side. Feel like you inspired me to do this, and you inspired me to do that. And I just want to thank you. You're very inspiring in such a manner. So, you know, when you're your full expressive self, like I was saying, there's no cap. You know, that full expansiveness will just radiate.
Yeah, and that's such a powerful thing, that what you were saying. Okay, there's two things I gotta mention that got me like really excited to mention. But one thing is that as we were talking about helping to bring value to others, we know that energy affects consciousness. If you help people to feel higher vibrational emotions, that you help to raise them energetically. Just them raising their energy just a slight helps influence the consciousness around them. So the same thing with when we raise our energy, it affects the consciousness of other individuals. So the greatest way that we can, you know, raise the consciousness of the collective is by spreading value, helping people to feel better in a society that makes you feel, that gives you so many reasons to feel bad. Giving people something to feel rooted in their happiness. And many times what I try to do is I try to like make it a more personal statement, because it could be something like, and what I mean by a more personalized statement, so for example, somebody could have like a pair of shoes and you can say, those are nice shoes. That may make them feel like a little bit happier, right? But if you tell them, wow, you have a very good choice in the shoes you pick, when you personalize that, they internalize it. And the deeper you can personalize the love you give somebody, the deeper they'll internalize the love that they received. And that has like powerful ripples, because those are the things that they carry in their psyche, and how you personalize it and how they internalize it will affect how they then feel about themselves, which then affects the energy around them. The way you feel about yourself, how you feel centered in yourself, affects your energy field, which then affects the way consciousness is affected around you. So they can take that home to their family, and then their family just feels a little bit better. They're like, oh, you seem good. The reason why people notice they feel good around you is because of the energy that you're bringing. And it makes them feel good, and people feel good when you're feeling good.
Beautiful. Thank you for sharing that, brother. Thank you for coming on here, and you're always welcome on here. What's your Instagram again?
Jesse and Titus. It's my name. I can type it in
Jesse and Titus.
comment. Yeah, I'll type it in there.
Yeah, you can type it in there.
Yep, just put it in there.
Yeah. Beautiful. Thank you for coming on here, brother. Thank you all for sharing the breath. And I like that you like to personalize their. That's what you were doing in terms of their action, in terms of choice. Choice is an action. So that's a great way to fine tune and find that common ground. Way of saying, you know, hello, conscious breathers, infinite beings. You know, everyone choose to be conscious of their breath. Like, oh, I'm breathing now. Am I breathing? So much love to you, brother. Thank you for coming on here. Thank you. Thanks everyone for watching. Thank you all for sharing the breath. Peace.
Peace.
Hello, I'm Frank Roser. I'm a breathwork coach and American football coach from Germany. And I had my first breathwork session with Devin yesterday, and I just can't say it was really amazing. He showed me a new breathing technique and explained me a lot of very powerful things that gave me a very good insight. And during the breathwork, I went to some places. I was really able to go within and to relax. And the first couple of rounds were a bit difficult for me because there were some things that I never did before. But in the last 2 rounds, I just felt amazing. So I really could focus on within, what's going on within, and just relax. So Devin, thank you from the bottom of my heart. And I just can recommend everybody to, do some breathwork with the breathwork guru, Devin. Thanks and all the best.